Hey guys, it's Nicole, and today I am continuing on with my Creating with Collections, Volume 4. This is with the Cocoa Vanilla Storyteller kit. Today, Sara Scraps is also going to be playing along, so be sure to check the description box below for a link to her channel. She has so much content going up in March. I saw her post that she made, I want to say it was on Instagram, could have been Facebook, where she literally showed everything that was coming out in March, and I was like, dang girl, like how do you get all this stuff done? So to kind of recap, remind, I worked on about 5 of these layouts during a recent crop, which was hosted by the Scrap Room, which is a kit club. I severely overpacked. I ended up primarily working through this Cocoa Vanilla kit, and it was just kind of really nice to dive back into this and work on this. This was kind of the time in the day where I had pulled out my headphones and I was just sort of focused and getting things done. If I can find the sketch, I will tell you guys. I want to say it's from the 4x6 sketch bundle that I got very, very behind on. But I had also packed some additional sketches that were designed to work with 4x6s. So I'm not 100% sure if the sketch was from that bundle or if it was one of those extra ones that I had packed. Either way, I did, I want to say I modified a little bit of it. There's a section to the left of like the page break, so like the center of the layout. I'm going to end up putting a piece of wood grain cardstock there. I probably should have just left it this blue background, but sometimes I tend to like focus too hard on a sketch, and I kind of forgot that with this being photos of all 4 of us, I don't really journal on these. Sometimes I might put like the location and maybe the year, if that. And so I just was really following the sketch, and I wasn't really thinking about the fact that that area was dedicated for like a big chunk of journaling, but I squeezed in some wood grain paper. Anyways, this was about, I want to say, the 4th or 5th layout that I had worked on, and I was really starting to feel like I wasn't using a lot of the papers. I tend to use a lot of different patterns, but I tend to not use that much paper, and I tend to have a lighter embellishing style. But when I'm trying to kill a kit or use a kit up, or a collection in this instance, I have to remind myself to use a little bit more than what my like natural instinct is, because I'm not coming at it from like, oh, I'll just use what I like, I'll put the rest of my stash, I'll revisit it on another layout. It's kind of a little bit different mentality for how I work through a kit like this, and I kind of have to remind myself it's okay to use a bunch of stuff on one page. So I ended up covering up all of the white cardstock base. Instead of using 2 full-size sheets of that green paper and covering up most of it, I just kind of do the strip technique where you just cut strips and kind of wallpaper it onto the white cardstock. That tends to be what works best for me. Now, I don't think that these patterns were ones that I necessarily felt like were perfect or would have been my first choice, because of the way that the sketch was designed and the sizes of where like the blue paper needed to be. I really had to go and dig through my papers and figure out what I had left that was actually large enough to cover that area. And you guys know by now, I tend to pull B-sides. I absolutely love B-sides. I feel like if there was a collection that was all B-sides, I would be all over it. I sometimes have to force myself to use the A-sides. I just feel like sometimes they're just too busy for me. And especially in an application like this where my photos are going to be like housed in that area, very rarely do I put my photos on top of A-sided papers because my brain just feels like it's too busy, it's too much. And I've said this before, you kind of have to know what you like and go with it and just lean into those things, and that is sort of how you start to figure out what your personal style is and how you end up defining that. And by repeating those techniques or repeating those same type of design elements is sort of how you really start to sit in your personal style. So with the photos that are on the right hand page, I really like to have a white border if I can. I just kind of made like a DIY collage with those 4x6s by putting a little bit of a gap on either side of the photo in the middle and then trimming off the overhang from the top and bottom because I know that that's just going to be like background of trees and stuff like that. So this is pretty much how I assemble most of my layouts. Is I go straight in with the paper, I go straight in with the photos, and then I sort of say, okay, now what? I went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth with the stickers and the die cuts that I have left. And I guess the best way I can try to explain this is I tend to pull what I'm noticing first or what I'm drawn to first and see if I can make it work and see where that leads me. And I noticed, especially like as I started this cluster on the right hand page, that everything I was pulling was pink. And I think it was because most of the papers that I've used are blue and green. The blue flowers are not going to be as noticeable on that. I really wasn't feeling the yellow. And that kind of left me with probably 6 or 7 of the pink range in the floral pack that I had. And so I just decided I was going to use all the pink things. And in order to kind of stretch this out, because I didn't have a whole lot of them left, was to cut them in half and spread them out among different clusters. I've kind of got like a medium cluster and a small cluster on the right page. And then my left cluster, I sort of had it become like a photo corner. At this point, I have yet to even measure where I'm going to put my title. I don't even know what my title is. I actually had an online scrapbook friend sort of on call for SOS title help during the crop. I think at this point was when I was messaging her. And we both have the download from Scrapbook Generation where it's all about journaling, but there's a section in that giant ebook that I absolutely love, and it's all about titles. And so we were kind of bouncing ideas back and forth. And I tend to go with one that, 1, doesn't make me cringe, 2, matches the photos as well as I think it can. And because I like mixing different size fonts and different font styles, I tend to kind of look at what like the major words are in a phrase and figure out, okay, if I die cut those or I use letter stickers with these, what's going to fit? At this point, I still have not settled on a title, so I just moved on to tiny hearts. I had brought this bag of pre-stacked hearts. I actually made these during a like Zoom crop thing that I hosted through my Facebook group a couple months ago. I knew that when I was doing the Zoom crop, I knew that I was going to have some anxiety just based on some different stuff that was going on. I wanted to work on something to kind of keep my hands busy and kind of just stay somewhat focused on something and get something accomplished instead of kind of just only sitting there and chatting. I do like to get something done during like a Zoom crop. And so I went ahead and just made blank stacked hearts. This set I think is my like favorite. It's not my favorite style of heart, but the fact that there's 7 sizes and each size has 4 hearts on the die makes the process go a lot faster. And so I just ran it with a whole bunch of different like white cardstock scraps and sat there and stacked them, put them all in that bag, and then when I go to use them, I only need to cut the top layer, and I can kind of strategically place those dies on a scrap of pattern paper or like those 3x4 cards that I showed in the previous video. I can kind of pick and choose what's going to show up in that heart shape, and then I only have to glue on the top layer. So because I've got a lot of these pinks going, I went through a lot of my paper scraps and just tried to find some different shades of pink. I tried to use up any of the little like red from the like paint swatch paper if I could. And then I had brought these pink like tile alphabet stickers. These are super old. They might be my mind's eye. I'm not 100% sure. Very, very old, but man, do they come in handy. And typically when I settle on a font, or not a font, when I settle on a title, it's off to the side. I wrote it down on like a piece of trash paper that I dug it out of my trash. And I make sure like which words do I want to have be small, which ones do I want to die cut with a larger one, and do I have enough in like the sticker format. I don't worry about do I have enough in the dies because I'm going to be making my own like DIY thickers, and so I can make as many as I want. I went back to this Lawn Fawn alphabet set. I don't know, I'm really liking sort of the playful vibe that it has. And then this was about the point where I was starting to get smart and I stopped using my white cardstock scraps. And instead, I was like, you know what? I'm never going to get through all this paper, and I don't want this kit to get to the point where the only papers I have left are the ones I don't like. So I started using some of the patterns that I don't love as my stacking pieces. So this one is like a blue plaid on one side and then like a white tiny floral on the other side. I die cut so much stuff out of that and used that as my stacking layers, and it made me feel good that I was using the paper even though I'm not seeing the pattern. So I think that that's going to be something that I'm going to pull in again as I work through this kit. I've kind of opened up this avenue for the elements that I don't love. I can use them to do a ton of die cutting and maybe die cut the elements that I like into a different shape and kind of give it a new life, or die cut it into layers for stacked pieces and not actually see it and not be pulling out, you know, fresh sheets of white cardstock all the time. So I settled on Heart Full of Love for my title. Basically, I was just kind of not in the mood for anything that said family. I feel like a lot of these family photos, I end up using the word family or together or something. And when I saw that one, I was like, that's great because I can cut heart and love with the alphabet dies and then like use the like less important words for the letter stickers. I did squeeze in that little Our Story sticker, and I think that might have been the only sticker that I managed to get in there, and then this little die cut like journaling box, which I left blank. So that is my layout. As always, I appreciate you guys spending time with me, letting me ramble, sharing my creative process, and I thank Sara for playing along and letting me sort of eke this out way longer than I thought we were gonna go. And I will have another video in this series in a few days, and until then, thanks for stopping by, and I'll catch you guys later.